So closing in on 100 hours of this game, is it any good? And to be honest with you, after 100 hours, I'm a little bit bored. I think it's taken me a lot longer to actually grind out this game to level 55 than I thought it would do. I've managed to now get pretty much most of the map done. I think I'm about 97% give or take. We are closing in to get to that level 50 because I have just been driving around and naturally trying different things, having a look at just how everything works really. And to be honest with you, the game, I expect it to be slightly better, especially coming from a person that loved the first and second test drive Unlimited on, was it the PlayStation 2 back in the day? This one just feels very blocky, like genuinely, I'm not necessarily an avid car fan. Like, I like playing racing games. I'm a big fan of Forza Horizon, like all the F1 games, love the Need for Speed series and all of them. Like, I like just playing them. I'm not necessarily into like tuning the cars and really going in depth, but most definitely just playing, learning the mechanics of how they drive, and naturally that kind of plays a massive part in the game. Now, the first thing that you'll get whenever kind of racing a game is the animation of actually literally hitting a car. That for me is probably the most jarring thing about this game, and it's just ridiculous. Like, literally, like you bump in, and I'm not expecting your car to crumple every time. I just expect a little bit more realism with it, to be honest. There isn't no rewind feature due to the fact that everything's online, so hence why nothing really stops, and it's why you can't reverse back. I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily need the kind of rewind and stuff like that. That's just not necessarily a big thing for me. But it would be nice to have it if it was an option, especially with some of the races. I do find the AI does definitely level up pretty quickly in this game, and if you're kind of going in the hypercars, you're going in the supercars, you might find it a little bit challenging depending on how good you are at going from controlling almost a drifting car to then controlling very, very high speeds. But you can obviously do these races consistently. Like, they're not necessarily asking you to win every single race, and that was the one thing that I was very confused at playing racing games for pretty much most of my time, like 15-20 years now. I've never really seen a game be so okay with you not coming first. Like, normally that is the main objective in any racing game, is being first. The amount of top 3 finishes, just getting XP for the 4th that I've seen is just absolutely nuts. And I don't know if that is just what I'm forgetting, a test drive thing in general. Let me know in the comments. I completely forgot how the test drive game worked. I just knew the open world side of it. Now, the world, I'm very happy with. I think the world is absolutely incredible. A few things, minor bugs. These keep on locking every time I go out of the game. That is driving me crazy, because most definitely when I was doing all the roads and like I needed to go, like say like these were like the 3 that just never worked. Now I can't get this workshop one not to work, but the Ferrari dealership and this one just never work. So it is just that frustrating thing in itself. But that's kind of minor bugs. I can imagine that will be fixed. Once you've done it, then you've done it. It's all good. So that's very minor in the aspect of an actual game. It's not necessarily stopping me doing anything, so that kind of is what it is. But in terms of the world itself, apparently, I need to fact check it, apparently it's a replica model of Hong Kong. If this is to be true, and I believe it's from a very good source, that is incredible. Like, I like the size of the map. I like that you've got some dirt roads. You've got then a bit more open space for a bit more speed. Then you've obviously got the inner city, the highway. Decent, very, very decent. I like the length of it. It works perfectly. I think then most definitely you will have that point where you can just grind out this game pretty easily. You can drive across most of it. I'm very happy with that. It works, and it's a nice kind of level to kind of go with. The ranked games, that is the pain in my rear, because it just is not popular online at all. If I'm trying to find any race, so for instance, just as you know, I am trying to do 2 objectives. I can't remember which ones they are now, but there's 2 objectives that are in a ranked game that I need to do. I have literally spent about half an hour just waiting in a lobby for somebody. Not only that I have to then wait in the lobby, because obviously if you're doing a ranked game, you've got to wait for at least another person and yourself. But the fact that the ranked game that I need is a requirement to have either a Ferrari or Lamborghini, which is now at a level 40, if you've not seen already. So I'll have to wait for them. But then also I need to wait for somebody that is already over level 40 and potentially trying to do that task themselves. So if I ever lose that and I need to rematch it, it's just going to be virtually impossible. Like it takes so long to get into any ranked games. I don't understand why they made tasks for the ranked games as well. Like surely that should be just a side mission or something across that, but ranked games are just not a thing for this, to be honest. And to be fair, as I said, I'm a very basic racing gamer, so I don't necessarily go online a crazy amount anyway. I like doing the online the solo stuff. I like getting the cars, and I think that is kind of my part when it comes to racing games. The generic feel of the car, the sounds, everything is fine. I think mainly it comes down to the crash mechanics that, for me, like you kind of just spin off them. That for me is just not the one. And it may be that that's just how Test Drive has always been, but this kind of bouncing off effect, especially when racing, when you go around a corner and you kind of just want to slide past somebody, you can just kind of take their inside and just slide. You don't actually have any, like, if I hit into him, I'm absolutely fine. I don't need to worry about it. Like, literally, it just bounces me off. I'm not a big fan of that. Like I say, I like more of the crash kind of mechanics side of stuff, but again, that could be just on a personal take, because it would make it easier, I suppose, for the races, because obviously you can just spin somebody out. I can literally just take his wheel and kind of do that, whereas when you've not got that mechanic, it makes it a lot more difficult in a race to bump them out the way. So I think in terms of the game, it's one of them ones where I'm like, it's definitely an okay game, but it's very disappointing with the hype that I kind of thought it would have, to be honest. I really thought this game would have really had that kind of next level vibe. Maybe even something to kind of really put the pressure on Forza Horizon to be very good. But I do think Forza is just going to absolutely wipe the floor with it. And I think when it comes to the storyline of this game, there's just not really any. Like, every now and then you get put into the Solar Crown stuff, and even then it's not necessarily a great deal. Like, it is just literally cutscenes. As you'll probably know, you'll get one every 35 levels, so I've just had the level 41, very close to the level 45 elite. We then got the hypercars, and then finally we can finish the crown jewels, which apparently is where a lot of the money does come from. Obviously they're going to be more endurance races, and apparently the actual credits you get from it is close to, if not over, 1 million credits per race. So I mean, that's going to be absolutely fantastic to see off the final kind of extra little cars that I want. Another thing when it comes to the workshop and stuff like that, not being able to sell the cars for me is just not necessarily my biggest kind of want. I must admit, when it comes to buying the cars, especially the big end, like you're looking at like a couple of million each. Like, for instance, we've got obviously this Chevrolet. I wouldn't have bought it if it weren't for the fact that it's an objective. It gave me an extra 12,000 XP. It's 1.75 million. I physically cannot do anything with it now. So realistically, I've got this supercar. I've got that one, which was free. Then you've obviously got the Lamborghini I bought, which was for an objective. And then I think if we sort by where we got sort by, that's it, yeah. So if we go all the way down, obviously I bought the Audi as my first supercar. Then obviously I've got some extras that were just from the Game Pass, from getting the Ultimate Edition. And then the same for some of them, like the Jag, just from the Game Pass, whereas like the Porsche was my country car because you couldn't unlock it until you got a certain rep. So for me, I just think that's a little bit silly, because obviously if I can't sell the cars and then you are requiring me to get 12, 15 million, it's going to be very difficult without really being at the end, which if I'm already past the end, I've got predominantly most of the percentage of the discovery done. The only things now I need to do really are kind of these paths that you'll find hidden around each of the mountains. that's kind of going to be then very deterring to even bother going for them. Like if we look at, for instance, the Ferrari shop, because we've just unlocked it again, you'll see you've obviously got 1.6 million, 1.5, 1.1, 2.4, 4 million, 21.5, 2.5, 12, and 8.1. So realistically there, I'm not going to get them all unless there is something right at the end, which I don't know about, other than the endurance race that you can do it for 1 million. I'm going to have to do that like 40 times for just the Ferrari dealership, let alone not being able to get all of the Ferraris yet. So there still might be some that are added. That for me is just not really the best kind of use of time when it comes to a racing game. It's why when we saw the before you buy series, he basically said that you didn't actually get any free cars from the game, like from doing races, getting levels, which I agree is a big missing factor, because then at least maybe you've got quite a few of the cars already, so you don't necessarily have to go and buy every single car, which they're more than willing to make you do, because even if then we go up a little bit, we look into any of the dealerships if they're unlocked again. For instance, if we go into the Italian, obviously it's not nowhere near the Ferrari side, but 2 million, 2.6, 2 million, let alone that's just the supercars. We're not even into the hypercars yet, and they're going to be even more expensive. So if I was wanting to collect every single car, the grind is going to be absolutely magnificent, because it's probably going to take me another 100 hours to be able to even afford probably a quarter of the cars in the game. But I do think everyone will be a little bit harsh on games, and most definitely it works. I think that's the blessing for most games at this point. At least it does work. But I just think, as an overall feel, a little bit disappointed for the Ultimate Edition. Maybe if I spent 50, 60, maybe maxing out at a 70 if I'm really being very kind to the game. I think £70 is semi worth it, but I could also see there being an argument for not being. Definitely the £100 and £120 versions, no, not at all. Like the actual the cars that you get, you barely can use till halfway through the game, because you've got to get the right reputation. I like that. I like that you can't actually go ahead and grind out and have like you do in some of the games, like a Bugatti at level 1. That's fair enough. I'm all for being able to have them later on, but I do think that's a little bit of a con from the actual additions, because realistically, by the time you get the ability to use them cars, you're not going to use them. You'll have something else, because you'll have had to have bought something else. Not just for the fact that you need the XP, but then also because you'll get them before you actually even get the car unlocked in your garage. So for me, I do think it's slightly disappointing game. I wouldn't necessarily be offering this to everybody. I know that we are potentially getting Forza Horizon next year, and it's like that. Like, you get a couple of scratches, that's about it. Obviously, Forza Horizon is going to be a big one that's going to be highly anticipated, with no news of a new Need for Speed coming this year. It will be interesting to see where the racing scene goes after this. But let me know your thoughts on this game, and if you're still playing it.